everyone, welcome once again to the self-knowledge lectures. Today we are going to be studying the lecture number 45 of the 50 lectures that comprises the phase A, of the self-knowledge course. And today we're going to be studying what should we do so that the practices that we study here to achieve self knowledge, to awaken our consciousness, to get to know ourselves, give positive results. Yeah. So today we're going to be studying all the aspects that constantly prevent us from having positive results in practices such as astral projection, meditation, supersexuality, and so on. Right? Because the fundamental thing is to learn to achieve, to achieve positive results in all these practices, because this knowledge is totally practical, right? Only with the theory we are not going to advance, right? We are just going to be building our intellect, our mind, with more and more information, but that information is not wisdom. It's just information. The only way to transform information into real wisdom is to practice, is to verify by ourselves. For example, we can learn and read and hear about astral projection. We can ask people about their experiences on astral projection. But actually, we are going to know nothing about astral projection until we practice and practice and practice with patience and discipline, and we achieve the conscious astral projection. In that moment, when you find yourself out of your body, moving at will with your astral body, there you are going to have a lot of wisdom about astral projection. More wisdom than the one that a person who just read about that or just hear about that, even having read, I don't know, 1,000 books about that, you're going to know more only with achieving astral projection just one time, right? So the important thing, as you can see, is the practice. But there are certain aspects that constantly prevent us from achieving results in the practices, and one of them, and is a very important one, is a lack of concentration. Now, that concentration in itself is a power, the power that allows us to succeed in anything that we undertake. The very word concentration let us know that to be concentrated is to achieve that consciousness is centered in the action that we are doing. But as we are a multitude of psychological defects, actually our essence is 97% trapped in the ego, in all the different ways of being that manifest in us, in all our centers, making us think, making us feel, making us act, making us talk, making us desire. Then only 3% of our essence is consciousness. Right? And due to our personality, due to how fascinated we are with the material things, with these third dimension, right? And how we are so used to let our psychological defects manifest, that 3% of consciousness is not active, is not there, living every action that we are doing. That is why we are not concentrated. We are all the time doing something, but at the same time, we are thinking about a lot of things. We are feeling a lot of things. We are desiring, we are remembering, we are planning, and we are not there, right? So concentration is something that we must exercise every day. It is absurd that we wait until the time that we are there practicing, that we are there meditating or practicing astral projection, going to have super sex or any other practice, to try to be concentrated. If we are not developing that power, we are not going to be able to remain concentrated, right? So concentration is something that we must exercise every day, moment to moment, right? And to achieve concentration, we must learn to set an objective every time. Every time we need to be aware of what we are doing or what we are going to start doing, right? So that we are clear about what is our objective. Because when we don't have an objective, we are there wondering, right? But if we know that what if I'm gonna do right now is to read something, is to clean the dishes, is to practice something, that is what I'm gonna do. And there I'm going to have that objective in my heart, right? And then what I'm going to do, I want to put the encouragement to do so. I'm going to make that my emotional part is there aligned with that objective that I have set in my heart, right? And then I'm going to put that spirit to that I'm going to do. And then right away I'm going to start doing. Then my motor center is going to be also aligned with that. At the moment that I have the spirit to do so, I just start doing the thing that I have put in my heart. And then how am I going to keep that state of concentration? I'm going to be practicing psychological depth, because at the very moment that you just start doing something, thoughts come into your mind, emotions try to arise, right? Yeah, you feel desire to stop doing that and do something different, or to do different things at the same time. And we are going to be there in self-observation, and everything that wants to take us out of what we are doing, that want to take us out of the present moment, of the here and now, where we are living that process, that practice, or whatever we are doing. We're going to eliminate that. And we are going to return back to our objective, back to our hearts. That is the way to remain concentrated, because consciousness can only manifest here and now, right? If we are wondering, if we are in somewhere else in our minds, or yes, if we are in the past or in the future, then consciousness cannot manifest, right? So with the psychological depth, if we practice psychological depth from moment to moment, we are going to be able to remain conscious, right? To remain alert in self-awareness. In that way, we are going to be concentrated. It is very useful that we set a time every day to make a schedule of the activities that we are going to do. Yes, a simple schedule, right? With all the things or the tasks that we must accomplish in a day. It's important that in that schedule, we set priority for the esoteric practices, right? Because if we just give importance to the things of the personality, they are going to take all of our time, and we are going to be we are not going to have time for the practices that are actually important, right? So, what is important of the importance of making this type of schedule is that if we do have an order of the things that we must do during the day, we don't need to be planning, in the run. But we already know what we are going to do, and we just do everything in a concentrated way. We don't need to be planning. We don't need to be watching times, because we already know the time that we have set and when we're going to do so, and we are just there living the practice that we said that we want to do. And there are certain aspects to take into account to concentrate, and they are very important. The first one is to always do one thing at a time, because that way we can concentrate, we can totally focus on that thing. If we are there trying to do many things at a time, we are not be really concentrated in none of them. Right? And the other aspect is to remain there in the present moment, not letting the mind wander. Because we can be, for example, trying to meditate, but at the same time we are there trying to answer some messages, or we are, for example, trying to meditate, but we let our mind to take us to tomorrow, to plan, to worry about something that is going to happen. We are not going to be concentrated, right? So we must be there without thinking of anything else, without interrupting one thing to do another. not thinking about things that we're gonna do. No, I'm here and now, doing this, and that's it. Not remembering things that have been already done, not worrying about if things that went out badly, or I don't know, thinking about how good those things were. No, here and now. And that way consciousness can manifest, because in the very moment that you let yourself go to the future or to the past, the psychological defect is there. Is there feeling, is there thinking, is not consciousness active. As long as a psychological defect is acting in the machine, right, it's taking over all the centers, then consciousness cannot manifest. So the key is to stay focused. Stay focused, and you're going to experience how you're going to be successful in everything, because consciousness, which is actually wisdom and love, do everything in a perfect way. Everything. So the key is to stay focused. That is the first aspect to take into account, the lack of concentration. Due to that lack of concentration, we have not the power to achieve into success in anything. And the second aspect of failure is the lack of faith. We tend to doubt a lot. And we must differentiate between conscious faith to just believe, because many times we think that by believing in something, then that is faith. And no, believing in something is something passive. When you just believe in something, you don't experience that. Okay, I, for example, can say, "Oh, I believe in God," but actually, that is just that I am affirming the concept that I have about God. It's very different if I experience God by myself. I can say I believe that there are different dimensions in nature. And I can just affirm that concept, and that is a belief. But conscious faith is to go and experience the reality of the different dimensions in nature. So direct experimentation of the truth is conscious faith. And the opposite of faith is doubt. When you let our mind doubt, then doubt is the worst enemy that we have. Because when doubt appears, we fail, because it fills our minds with thoughts, with why not, and it convinces us not to do anything. So when we are trying to achieve something, anything, or a practice for self-knowledge, if doubt appear, we must learn to observe it and to eliminate all the details of doubt, all the details, all that skepticism. It's not useful. Actually, we think it is useful to be skeptical, because we are not going to be just mere believers, just mere fanatics. And actually, those are just two poles of ignorance. To believe and to doubt is not knowing. The only way to really know is to practice, right? Is to verify for ourselves, to reflect until we reach the truth. So we must eliminate that believer, that passive I in ourselves that just settle for belief without really knowing by experiencing. And we must eliminate the doubt in all these phases. We must actually develop a conscious faith that comes from a conscious doubt. How can we consciously doubt? Well, I don't know, right? I don't know. I don't know if that is truth. I cannot say it is truth because I haven't verified, but I'm going to practice. I'm going to verify it by myself, right? And that way we are going to be achieving conscious faith. And a person who practices reaches the reality, reaches the truth. Anyone who does knows. And if he knows, then he no longer doubts. Right? If you can doubt about reaching the seventh dimension through samadhi, through the transcendental meditation, for example, it's okay. You can doubt it because you don't know. But when you go and you practice, when you set a daily time for that transcendental meditation practice, and you reach samadhi, then you no longer doubt. Then can anyone comes and say, no, that is not truth, and you know it is truth, right? For example, astral projection. Let's say you haven't practiced, you don't know yet, and someone comes and says that is not true, that is something evil, that is something and that is like self-deception from the mind, whatever they can say. If you don't know, you can actually let that person to enter and to make you doubt. But if you already have experienced astral projection, if you already have experienced the reality that you can connect with your inner being, that you can go to the past, to the future, that you can investigate anything, that you can actually move with your astral body, that you can go through walls, that you can all of those things, anyone can come and say anything, and that is not going to take you out from your faith, because you already know. You have overcome ignorance, right? And you have overcome doubt, and you have achieved faith on that, right? So that is why it is important not to let ourselves be taken over by doubt, but to practice until we reach the result. That is when we achieve the truth faith. You can give faith on that you are talking about, for example. And well, the third aspect to study is fear, right? Actually, fear is the lowest vibration possible in nature. Actually, fear is the opposite force to love, which is the higher vibration in nature. Love is spirit. Love is a fire that encourages to do, yeah, that encourages to serve. But fear is what prevents us doing, because when we are afraid of something, we are like cold. We don't have that fire, right? We don't have the spirit to do, to serve, to practice. And in relation to the self-knowledge practices, we tend to be so very fearful, because there is something unknown to us. Then, yeah, and we have that fear of the unknown. So we must learn to study fear, to study the concepts that are there, like giving life to that fear. For example, astral projection. If we have those concepts that astral projection is something evil, that we can go out to astrally, and that we are going to be lost there, that that we will not be able to return to our body, that all those things that people tend, all those wrong concepts that people tend to be there all the time, trying to instill in people. You must observe that, you must reflect on that, you must make like a logical confrontation to destroy those concepts, because astral projection, for example, is something totally natural. All of us, every time that we go to sleep, we astrally project, and those astral projections are what we call dreams. And why dreams? Because they are unconscious. We go there without consciousness, right? And then we are dreaming, and we dream every day, and nothing bad happens to us. We every time return, because we are connected to our astral body through the silver cord. So we are going to return every time. Nothing can enter our bodies. Nothing different, nothing dangerous or more dangerous is going to happen if we do that consciously. No. If we are consciously, we can protect ourselves better, right? If we are, for example, we learned here about protection conjurations. And if those nightmares appear, for example, that are actually there are own psychological defects that are there, that has those monstrous shapes, we conjure them, and we get out of that situation, and we fly to some let's say more spiritual spaces. We can do that if we are conscious. right? So that is why we must study fear. Also, we must learn to observe how fear takes over our human machine, how it takes over our emotion, how all those sensations that the fear makes us experience in our body, how fear activates that mechanical imagination so that we eliminate all those details. Fear actually fits through mechanical imagination, right? It makes us imagine the worst possible scenario, and then we are there fearing that is going to happen, but that is not true. That is something that fear installed in our imagination, right? And if our fear is not resolved, if we don't eliminate all of that, as long as the imagination doesn't resolve, then the will does not work. We are going to be there frightened, and we are not going to be able to reach the objective that we are pursuing. Let's talk about super sexuality. If we are there, we want to transmute our sexual energy, but we are so afraid of losing the sexual energy during the practice. We are not going to be able to transmute our sexual energy because what we fear, we attract, right? Because we are making that the wonderful power of imagination is under the possession of those fears, of those defects, right? And then they are imagining something wrong, something bad. That is what is going to happen because we are giving mental and emotional energy to that wrong imagination, to that mechanical imagination. On the other way, if we are going to practice and we eliminate all those fears, then we are going to be able to consciously imagine at the moment the sexual energy ascending through our superior centers, and there we are going to be successful in transmuting our sexual energy. That is why it is so important that we work on all the details of fears, of what we feel in our bodies, the tensions. Fears tends to make us like rigid in our muscles and so on. Let's say astral projection. If we are fear of astrally projecting ourselves, we are not going to be able to achieve that. And if we do so, and if we consciously project ourselves, the very moment in which we find ourselves there in that other dimension, in that place, maybe it's dark, I don't know, maybe a psychological defect appear or whatever, just by staring at our body, they're sleeping and we are here. Oh my god, and we are going to return to our physical body due to that fear, right? So we must learn to relax. We must learn to eliminate all the fear and just flow, right? So that we can have all those superior experiences that we can achieve during and through these practices. And well, the fourth aspect of failure to study is the objective, right? It is very important that we have an objective, that we know why we're doing something. What am I trying to achieve with this? Because when we don't have an objective, we wonder. For example, let's say that this ship is in the water and the captain is there asking the tripulation where to go, and some of them says let's go to Paris, and some of them says let's go to New York, and some of them let's go to England, and they all of them has different objectives. They are not going to even start doing because they don't have an objective. But if the captain says let's go to New York and everybody says okay, let's go to New York, they have an objective and they are going to reach their objective, right? Because they are not wandering. The same happens to us. Sometimes we want to do something, but we don't have that objective, and then we don't have the encouragement. Let's say that we want to achieve conscious astral projection, right? But what for? I don't know. And what is going to happen? That we are not going to do the practice, right? Because why? What for? But if I say I want to achieve conscious astral projection because I want to, for example, verify a past life, right? I want to really experience by myself that we don't live only once. but that we live successive existences. And that is an objective that I really want to achieve. Uh, well, that very objective is going to give me the spirit, the encouragement to do the practice. And once that I'm astral projected, then I'm going to immediately follow that objective. Something that can happen is that if I don't really have an objective, or let's say that my objective is not specific, it's just like a vague objective. I want to achieve astral projection because why? Because why? I want to achieve conscious astral projection. And then I am there astrally projected, and as I don't have a specific objective, I am going to start dreaming right away. I'm going to be there. Wow, so amazing. But something is going to happen. Let's say, for example, an elephant is there flying, and I'm going to be there amused by that elephant flying, and then I'm going to lose consciousness because I don't have an objective to pursue. Right? So that is why it's so important that we have a specific objective, something that we really want to do, and that after doing the practice, I put the objective in my heart. For example, we can say the objective 3 times. We are there, for example, going to sleep, going to practice astral projection, and we say 3 times that objective. I'm going to achieve astral projection, so I can ask to see a past life. And I say that 3 times. I set that objective in my heart. As soon as I am there projected, I'm going to remember that objective. Or in every practice, anything that we're going to do, I'm going to practice sex. My objective is to transmute all my sexual energy and not to spill and a single drop of my sexual energy. That is my objective. And say, oh, I'm going to do this practice of reflective meditation, and my objective is to observe the most details from that defect and eliminate them. Right? I want to take that emotion out of me. I want to eliminate this impatience. I want to achieve chastity, and I'm going there with that objective, and that is going to give me the encouragement and the spirit to do so and to be successful, right? So that is why it is so important that we take into account these 4 aspects. Work on developing concentration, work on eliminating doubt, work on eliminating fear, right? So that we have faith, so that we have encouragement, and work on the objective. Always detailed that objective. Always to have a specific objective for everything that we're gonna do. Really wanting that objective is going to give me the encouragement to practice and to follow the objective until I reach it. Okay, and well, there are certain rules to take into account for success for succeeding practices. The first is to have a right longing. It's important to know how to long. Desiring is longing, but the desire of consciousness. We must work to give fire to that longing, so that it grows in ourselves. Always right therein. We must dare. We must dare to do. We cannot remain in that passive position. No, we must act. That is the right therein. And the right action is already do the thing. But something important to take into account in this third aspect is that the one who does is our inner being, right? We put the encouragement, we put the willpower to start doing, but the one who really does is our real being. For example, we want to eliminate the psychological defect, right? And what we do, we put the encouragement, put the fire, put the will to be there to observe. But when we ask for the elimination of the defect to our Divine Mother, it's not us, it's not this personality, it's not the ego that is there eliminating the defect, but it's our consciousness, it's our inner being. When we are there practicing supersex, We are there putting the will to refuse desire, right? We are there imagining the ascent of the energy, but the one that is there making the energy ascend, creating the different inner bodies is our inner being, right? Or astral projection, we are there in bed, putting the encouragement, putting the refusing the desire just to go to dream, to sleep and dream. But the one who does is our inner being. The inner being is the one that gives us the fire, that gives us the capacity to remain alert during the process of detachment of the physical and the astral body. And why is so important to take this into account? Because at the very moment that we succeed in the practice, we are not going to be filled with pride, with pride from the ego. We are not going to fall into mythomania, to think that I am the one. I succeed. I actually project myself. I have eliminated the defects. I am creating my bodies. I am an initiated, because then the ego and the personality takes all of that and we fail, actually. But when we are humble and we know that us, this personality is nothing but the one who really is the inner being, then we are not going to fall into methomania. Okay. And the fourth rule is to reach a noble silence, to learn how to remain in this hermetic silence, all of those achievements from of our inner being, all those things that we receive in the inner worlds are actually things from our inner beings. All the advancement, the initiations are of our inner being. So we must learn to remain silent. Because when we talk about all those internal advancements, then the consequence of that is that the people who hear what we are achieving, they can or fall into envy, into self pity. I can't look at that person. His inner being is helping him, but he's not helping me. I can't. I don't have what it takes. Or they can hear us and fall into fanaticism and see us as something very elevated, very spiritual. The master, and then we are going to divert our inner work and divert the inner work of others. So it is important to learn how to silence. Yeah. And then we are going to be advancing step by step into this wonderful, wonderful work of self-knowledge, of reaching and achieving the awakening of 100% of our consciousness. If we do take into account these tips that we are sharing today, we are going to advance in this inner work. And well, people, this has been today's lecture. Remember that if you have any question on this topic, you can leave your questions there in the comment section, or you can directly contact us to resolve any concern that you have on this lecture. And if you are not yet part of our WhatsApp, of our Telegram groups, you can find in the description of this video the link to join our groups. There you can receive, along with these lectures, also complementary written material on all of them. And also we send the lectures on audio for the people who, due to internet issues, cannot reach the video. And well, I want to invite you to our next lecture, in which we are going to be studying how to control nocturnal emissions in sexual faults. So there, we are going to be studying some aspects that prevent us from achieving perfect chastity. There, we're going to be studying psychological aspects, external aspects of attack from the Black Lodge. So it's a very, very interesting lecture. Please do not miss it. And well, thank you very much for being here, and see you the next time. Bye bye.